Francesco Bagnaia gave Ducati back-to-back world championships, and he built their golden era from the ground up. Then, during the 2025 season, Ducati started building around someone else, not rumor. It happened in real time while their champion was still in the garage, and Bagnaia's response was not silence, it was war. But to understand why, you need to know what he had already given them. Francesco Bagnaia arrived at Ducati with a promise, and he delivered far more than that. In 2022, he led the team to its first MotoGP World Championship in 15 years, stacking up 7 Grand Prix victories, 10 podiums, and 2 pole positions. That year, the Portuguese Grand Prix became the defining moment. Bagnaia's last lap move sealed a title that Ducati had chased since the Stoner era. No retirements in the final run, no wavering under pressure. The Italian's points haul reached 341, a figure that stood as proof of consistency and raw speed. Ducati's own press release called it the race that crowned our champion. The following season, Bagnaia didn't just defend his crown, he raised the bar. 9 feature wins, 4 sprint victories, 15 podiums, and 3 poles in 2023. He finished the year with 352 points and clinched the title at Valencia, holding off Fabio Quartararo in a season-long duel that went down to the wire. Ducati's technical staff pored over his data, shaping the Desmos Adichie around his smooth throttle control and late braking style. Every new chassis tweak, every engine map, every aerodynamic update, Bagnaia's feedback set the standard. The team's internal development documents for 2023 referenced his telemetry as the golden benchmark. By the end of that run, Bagnaia had more premier class wins for Ducati than Lorenzo and Dovizioso, and his cumulative points outpaced every modern rival except Casey Stoner. For Ducati, these weren't just numbers, they were the foundation of a golden era. The factory's entire philosophy, from engineering to race strategy, revolved around Bagnaia's approach. He was the face of Italian racing pride, a VR46 Academy graduate living out the legacy of Rossi, backed by a factory that had become the envy of the paddock. Expectations for 2024 and beyond soared. To many, Bagnaia wasn't just Ducati's number one, he was untouchable. In the garage, his words shaped the bike. On track, his results set the bar for everyone else. The belief was simple: as long as Bagnaia led, Ducati would remain MotoGP's dominant force. The 2024 MotoGP season brought Ducati and Bagnaia to the very edge of triumph, only to leave them staring at the thin line between victory and heartbreak. 11 Grand Prix wins and 6 pole positions put Bagnaia in a commanding position, but the championship slipped away in the final race at Phillip Island. A high side crash on lap 5 forced a rare retirement, and Fabio Quartararo's third-place finish was enough to snatch the crown by just 3 points, 215 to 212. The post-race paddock was silent, the team principal's words echoing the sense of loss. A single crash changed everything. That moment set the tone for what followed. The 2025 campaign began with hope, but quickly turned turbulent. Bagnaia's form, once the gold standard, grew inconsistent. He recorded 4 did-not-finish results in the first 12 rounds, including a fuel tank failure at Silverstone and a crash at the British Grand Prix, which chipped away at his confidence and his championship position. After 12 races, he had only 1 feature win and 6 podiums, numbers far below the expectations set by his own previous seasons. His points total, 155, placed him third in the standings, trailing Marco Bezzecchi and Fabio Quartararo by a growing margin. Technical issues became a recurring theme. The new Jeep 26's handling characteristics, described by engineers as less forgiving, seemed to resist Bagnaia's input. Lap time analysis showed he was slower than his 2024 pace in 14 of 18 comparable races. Ducati's internal documents, once filled with references to Bagnaia's data as the golden benchmark, now flagged concerns about adaptation and consistency. The aura of untouchability began to fade, replaced by a sense of urgency and doubt. Inside the garage, the atmosphere shifted. Management scrutinized every result, every technical debrief. The pressure to deliver mounted with each missed podium, and each did not finish. For the first time since Ducati's golden era began, the question of whether a new benchmark was needed moved from the realm of rumor to serious discussion. In a performance culture built on relentless progress, even a champion's legacy could be put on trial. The opening for disruption was no longer hypothetical. It was real, and it was closing in fast. Marc Márquez's arrival at Ducati was announced in April 2024, but the real shock came weeks later when he took his first laps on the factory Desmosedici at Mugello. The stopwatch told a new story. Márquez clocked a 1-minute 38.452 lap time, just a tenth shy of Bagnaia's best, despite running a fresh setup and unfamiliar electronics. Ducati's data engineers pored over the telemetry, finding Márquez's signature everywhere: higher rear wheel slip on corner entry, sharper throttle spikes, and a willingness to hang the rear out further than any Ducati rider before him. The slip ratio numbers, usually living around 0.12 for Bagnaia, spiked to 0.18 under Márquez, forcing the team to rethink their assumptions about the bike's limits. In the garage, the ripple was immediate. Mechanics traded glances over printouts. Engineers debated whether the new data was an outlier or the future. Bagnaia, long the reference point for every chassis tweak and engine map, now saw his own gold standard lap overlays compared side by side with Márquez's. The internal language shifted, no longer just Bagnaia's way, but how does Márquez do it? Operational routines changed almost overnight. Test plans that once revolved around Bagnaia's feedback now split resources, chasing two distinct riding philosophies. Ducati's technical director described the shift as a new era of dual benchmarks, a phrase that echoed through internal briefings. Márquez hadn't just joined the team, he had redrawn the lines of what Ducati believed was possible, setting a new standard that the entire factory would have to chase. Midway through 2025, Ducati's leadership adopted a new playbook, one that valued measurable gains over sentiment or past glories. The era of a single gold standard was over. Internal documents now referenced a dual benchmark system, tracking both Bagnaia's and Márquez's data as parallel reference points. This was not just a shift in language, it was a total realignment of how resources, upgrades, and engineering hours were distributed inside the factory. For the first time, the technical department split its development pipeline. 55% of resources flowed toward Márquez's camp, with the remaining 45% allocated to Bagnaia's side. Chassis upgrades, electronic packages, and aerodynamic tweaks followed a new validation order, with Márquez's feedback becoming the first filter for any key update. Only after a part proved its worth on his bike would it reach Bagnaia's garage, often weeks later. This policy, quietly formalized in a September technical briefing, meant that every performance-critical change was effectively trialed with Márquez before anyone else. On paper, Ducati insisted this approach maximized the team's overall competitiveness. In practice, it rendered even a two-time champion replaceable. The message from management was unmistakable. Results would dictate opportunities, not history or loyalty. As the paddock absorbed news of the resource split, rival teams and riders took notice. The market consequences and the meaning for MotoGP's future were only beginning to unfold. Rider choices in 2025 carried new weight. Yamaha, once a powerhouse, had entered a full-scale rebuild, delaying its next-generation chassis until late in the season. Their timeline meant any rider switching to blue would be signing up for a long-term gamble, not instant results. Aprilia, meanwhile, had doubled down on retaining Marco Bezzecchi and was actively courting top-tier talent with a new engine package and promises of rapid progress. Bagnaia's name circulated in the paddock, fueling speculation about a possible Italian super team or a break from his Ducati roots. Yet the gravitational pull of the VR46 Academy and Valentino Rossi's mentorship remains strong. For Bagnaia, the decision was never just about machinery or money. The weight of Italian identity, the shared history, the pride of riding for a national icon, pressed against the cold logic of performance metrics and contract security. In this environment, every option felt like a crossroads between legacy and the relentless churn of MotoGP's rider market. MotoGP's balance of power no longer rests with a single rider or even a single team philosophy. Ducati's golden era, built on Bagnaia's consistency and Italian pride, now stands at a crossroads. The rise of dual benchmarks inside the factory, first Bagnaia, now Márquez, has shattered the myth of untouchability. Rival manufacturers sense the opportunity. Yamaha's technical overhaul, Aprilia's aggressive rider pursuit, and the emergence of new talent like Pedro Acosta all point to a championship where no seat or advantage is safe for long. Contracts are shorter, alliances shift faster, and the old certainties, national loyalty, team hierarchy, even the meaning of number one, are up for grabs. Every rider, even a champion, is forced to prove their worth in real time. As the door closes on one era, the next opens onto a grid more competitive, unpredictable, and open than ever before. The only constant is change, and the question now is who will adapt fastest. Right now, Ducati's golden era stands on shifting ground. Loyalty takes a backseat to performance, and even legends aren't immune. In MotoGP, legacy is never enough, only speed counts. The real question, when the factory moves on, who truly owns the story? Join the debate below.